Wetlands and Watercourse Agency meeting of October 16th to order. Can I have roll call?
Joe Marie Nelson.
Here.
Jill Kravitz, here. Roby Staples.
Here.
Donna Corbin-Savinsky.
Here.
Joseph Albert. Frank Alimo. Brian Peruta. Joseph Perillo Jr. and John Ungeyer.
Okay. I'd like to read the fire evacuation announcement. In case of a fire, there are two ways to exit the chambers. To my left, exit through the council chamber doors, turn left, and walk down one flight of stairs and out the building, or exit to the door of the rear of these chambers. In either case, once out of the building, walk a safe distance away from the building. Can we stand for Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda, executive session. Nothing tonight, right, Jim?
No.
Okay. Item 5, public participation, issues of concern that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the agency this evening?
Yes.
Step on forward to the mic. If you could just, for the record, state your name and address.
Okay. My name is Johnston, James Johnston. I represent the Heritage Farms Condominium Association at 304 Brainerd Road. And I would like to discuss tonight our ongoing inland wetlands permit number 522, which is active, and under which we just completed some excavation work, in our opinion, successfully. What I would like you to consider, if you will, and you're certainly going to have a lot of time to do this, because this permit expires on June 8th, 2014. I'd like you to consider extending the expiration date beyond June 8th, 2014 to no expiration date. And there's a reason why. I can state the reasons why. I know it might be irregular for you. We're willing to pay any fees that may, reasonable fees that is, that may ensue as a result of extending this. I can give you some benefits I think to the town and also to us that would ensue if you were to agree to do this. And if you want me to go further, I will. If you want to consider it and let me know what you think about it, you've got a lot of time to do it.
Okay. Personally, I'd like to know what the reason is that you are asking for this request.
Well, the cleanup or removal of silt material from retention basins such as this is an ongoing problem that needs to be addressed. We addressed it 2 or 3 years ago by relocating some of the silt material that was beginning to block the exits of the drains, and knowing that we would be doing a full-scale excavation process down the road. So we were able to move the material, and in talking with town officials here, they felt that that was a routine maintenance situation that we were conducting. The removal of the excavation materials from the site is what calls for the permit. So in any event, it's an ongoing situation that is not, it doesn't end because we successfully completed it 2 months ago. It'll be with us and have to be addressed perhaps in 7 or 8 years, perhaps moving material again the way we did. It will have to be addressed in full, with the full permit in force, probably in between 10 and 15 years down the road, as the material builds up in the retention basin. And the benefit to the town and to us as residents is, these are strict specifications that were drawn up with this permit, 522, very strict. And the modifications to that, which I was involved in, dated October 7th of 2010, added to the strictness, but eased the goal that we and the town and the Wetlands Commission were attempting to achieve. No one can say, no one on our side can say, and nor on your side, 12 to 15 years from now, what the attitude will be, whether lackadaisical towards a program such as this on the part of Heritage Farms. Perhaps things will change here in the Wetlands Commission and with the agent. No one knows what those administrative conditions will be at that time. With the same idea, in the same idea, it's always a possibility that a lackadaisical board on our part might hire a contractor that is unscrupulous, and we would get into trouble with that situation, and of course you would also. You would be, this commission would be deeply involved with a ongoing problem that would have to be stopped. Now, I'm addressing this tonight from the point of view that these strict specifications, if you want to call them that were drawn up for this permit, would continue in force actively. And we would, I would set up a particular file, if you want to refer to it as that it would be addressed once a year at an annual meeting and positively addressed with inspection of certain parts of the retention basin and the overflow, perhaps even a conversation with whoever's the agent as these years pass along. But being an active permit, that would work very nicely as it came around every year. If we expire the permit next June, it goes into a file, gets put aside, and it doesn't get opened again until something goes wrong. Maybe someone sees silt buildup, or perhaps someone may come by, such as the agent, and call it to the attention of a future board, and they would have to address it with application process. Maybe they might never, ever go back to the strictness that's written right in here, in this permit. So I'm asking you, I know it might be irregular if it's something that requires your consideration in your chambers here, not tonight, or then go right ahead. I can come back a year from now, or close to the expiration date, and I could be advised at that point, if you go along with me, or if you need more information, I could work to provide it. If you want to set a fee program at that time, if you're thinking of going along with me on this, then we can discuss what you would want. And just in a way of suggestion, perhaps it could be renewed for a 5-year period and the fee paid at that point, and then it could be addressed again every 5 years. And it would remain in force with the specifications that we all seem to appreciate and like. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them tonight. Otherwise, I'll get on my way.
Okay. I'm going to look to Jim first, and then we can take questions.
And I do appreciate Mr. Johnson coming in. I was out to inspect the work they did under this permit, and they did a nice job. And I believe that what brings Mr. Johnston in tonight is that the process in which he had to go through and his board had to go through to get that permit, to get the board members to get money together to do that project, it took quite a bit of effort. And I think that what Mr. Johnston would like to see going forward is something ongoing that they could count on to have, and it was something that would keep it fresh in everyone's mind that this is an ongoing maintenance project. You know, some of the discussions we had in the field was, if it's just the same type of work repeatedly, then I think that there may be an opportunity that we could discuss a different kind of application, a certain kind of fee schedule for an ongoing maintenance permit. Now, all of a sudden, if it's ignored for 10 years and you have to take several thousand yards of material out and regrade the whole thing, well, now you've got a whole different effort, a whole different size and scope of your project. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid here, is having that big to-do when something goes wrong, and set something in place that when he leaves his post and the next person that comes in there can pick up this and say, okay, this is something we do and something we continue to do. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. Yes, very well said.
Okay. So I think there's an opportunity to talk about this. You know, we have a year to, you know, not only his particular case, but we have several of these. I mean, there's more than several of these in the town of Enfield. I applaud you for being proactive. I mean, you come to us and say, hey, let's do something proactive going forward, and you know, I thank you for that. So.
Is that even a possibility to have a no expiration on a permit? I mean, through state statute?
Yeah, state statute has a limit.
Right.
But if it's renewable, you know, if we have a renewal fee for detention basin or stormwater practices, or have some category for this type of work, I think we could do that. You could adopt something new and renew that type of a permit every 5 years or 7 years. I don't know if we can
We'd
push
have
it
to
7
adopt
years.
that in our, for our fee schedule, so it's something that we'd have to add to and vote on.
Yeah,
and-
it's something, obviously we couldn't do today, but I mean,
Right.
get the ideas flowing and get the discussion going. I think it has some validity to it.
Okay. Any questions? Jill?
Mr. Johnson, did you say that you were the association president? Are you?
I'm vice president of
Vice
the
President, okay.
association.
This is the first I've seen of this tonight, so I definitely would want to look at it more because of the expiration date and look at what, the tickler file. To me, I've dealt with tickler files and people lose tickler files. Are we, do we want to make sure, are we keeping a tickler file or just you? We don't want to lose something in the 5 years or when there is an expiration date and then have the problem, like you said. I think we would want to think about who ultimately has that responsibility of keeping that tickler file. And I think I want to learn more about what we really can do about the, the ongoing pay fees. I don't even know, I would want to look at maybe our bylaws and see if we can even really do that without the expiration dates.
We have to adopt it into the
Yeah,
bylaws.
so, there's a lot that I would want to look at before we,
Oh, yeah,
we do
great
have till
discussion.
2014,
Yeah.
but, there's a lot to look at about that, and it will bring up a lot of other cases that we would have to look at in the future,
Some
too.
examples that we discussed was, do I initiate this yearly and come look at all the detention basins? I don't think that's practical. If we do some kind of new permit structure for this kind of facility, a stormwater detention facility or retention facility, part of that original permit would be yearly or biannual inspection reports sent to us.
Right.
And when we didn't get one, then my role as a enforcement agent would take over. But we'd be looking for these kind of facilities to be reporting to us and say, hey, we've been looking at it, and the sediment's getting deeper, or we had a big erosion problem, or the sand built up in the catch basins, whatever happened, we want to do something. So it's a way of just keeping track and keeping in communication.
Any other questions? Roby?
Yeah, what was it supposed to look like in the beginning? The first, you got a permit for something, but when they built Heritage Farms, what was it supposed to look like?
It is a retention basin, and what it was designed to look like then is what it looks like today. All we did was return it to its original state in the last 2 months by removing 60 some odd yards of silt material that built up. And the silt is made up of road sand, debris from grass cuttings. It's sandy soil that accumulates through the subsurface drainage system, comes off the roofs in downspouts connected to footing drains, which connect to the catch basin system, carries it to the retention basin. So that material was removed. When it was removed, we feel, in our opinion, and the contractor's opinion, that the retention basin is returned to its original state. But to answer your question, whatever it was designed to look like in 1995 is what it looks like today.
And I would agree with that. That's exactly what they did. And the discussion we had was look at the original files, original grades, and that's what they returned it to. And it was designed to collect sediment, and this is going to happen. It is not unusual. This is what happens in these facilities, and they took care of it. And it'll happen again. And
Off the top of my head, I can think of, I don't know, I've been on this agency for years now. I mean, dozens that we've approved. So what do we do in those instances? We have a maintenance plan, and, they give that to us in the plans, but
there's never been any follow-up.
there's really never any follow-up, right?
There's no
Okay, so I
mechanism.
think we have to look at this, first of all, legally. Is it even a possibility? Look through the state statutes if this is something. If not, then maybe perhaps we can amend our bylaws so that, or the fee schedule. This probably will take a while. I mean, it's not a simple
I'm
close.
sure it will, and I'm
issue.
prepared to be patient with that, in that regard. And just if I may respond to Ms. Krawick, my term was tickler file. That would be our responsibility. If we're issued a renewal, for example, if you want to term it that, then we would put it on the agenda annually for our annual meeting, and we would take action. It may be verbal coupled with an inspection by us. Who knows what it would be, 2, 3, 4 years from now. But certainly a report could be issued. There are minutes taken anytime we take action as a board, and those minutes could be forwarded right to this commission to show you that we are abiding by any requirements that you may issue along with a renewal. So essentially, I'm asking for a renewal of the permit with no expiration date. And I realize...
Which I don't know if it's possible.
I certainly
so,
understand that if it's irregular, well, maybe maybe we could set a precedent here where we could all be involved
Right.
in things a little bit more. Okay.
Any other questions? No? Well, I applaud your efforts.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wish
thank
more companies and associations, cared as much as you do, so I do appreciate this. And we'll start looking into it.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to address the agency? Okay. Next item on the agenda, public hearings, we have none scheduled. Correspondence? Jim?
Okay. Very late on the correspondence this meeting. One letter in here from the Connecticut Association of Conservation and Inland Wetland Commissions announcing their 35th annual meeting to be held Saturday, November 17th. If anyone has any interest in attending that, please let me know and I will get you registered.
Okay. Commissioners' correspondence, we'll start down with Roby. You have anything tonight?
No.
Okay. Donna?
No, I don't.
Okay. Jill?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I have just a few things. Just in case anybody's interested and has nothing better to do tomorrow night, there's a Council of Chairs meeting here tomorrow night at 6:30. It's usually in the big room downstairs. Anybody's welcome to join me. It happens quarterly. It's not a, but it's nice because you meet with the economic and planning and zoning and all the different boards. So if you have any questions, now's the time to go. Number 2, ETV slides. I know I had mentioned that to you, Jim. Maybe during your correspondence, you can let me know if.
I
talked on
did.
this.
I did
You
speak with Maya. We went over those slides that are on our website together, and she was enchanted, and was beginning to think of ways to incorporate that into
Perfect.
a spot. So
Okay.
there was some effort made, and we'll continue with that.
Thank you. And then that's actually all I have this evening. Okay. Approval of minutes, September 18th, 2012. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Jill,
September 18th.
Second?
second by Donna. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Item 10, Wetlands Agent Report.
Okay, in your file, in your papers there, you'll find a letter that I wrote to Mr. Marshall Butler, October 10th, regarding his permit of Inland Wetlands 529, which was a permit requesting to remove the deposits of regulated, requesting a permit to remove soil deposits within the regulated area, which had already been conducted at 8 and 10 Sharp Street. Also requesting to remove a portion of deposit material from a regulated area. And that was approved, I believe, in '09 with conditions. And so we've been working with Mr. Butler since '09, and in the spring, we had a discussion on what we needed to do to finalize his work there and to bring this out of violation and be done with it. He did conduct all those activities. He picked up all the debris there, regraded the slope, fertilized it, topsoiled it, seeded it with a seed mix that we had discussed in earlier meetings, and in my opinion, he has met his requirements. So we're happy to announce that we're going to close this violation. And there's some pictures here to follow that you can see the growth and stable.
Okay. Well, I'm happy we're closing it as well. Mr. Butler. Anything else, Jim?
Yes, we have, these gentlemen here are from Carriage House, and we had talked about a violation there. You have the letters, we had the letters from last meeting regarding the proposed, or the violation out there. And what I'll do is I'll just read through the letters for you, because you don't have all the copies you need there. But on August 14th, I received a call from a citizen anonymous citizen saying there was machinery working within a channel, within a flowing channel at Carriage House Condominium Association. So I went out there and I did observe a machine working, and I asked that gentleman to stop his working and that he, not to do anything else until we had a conversation with the owners and in this agency. And so from there we had a discussion. They came in and talked to Jose and I, and we discussed some of the things that we thought was necessary for them to prepare to bring to this board. We went over the original drawings to show what the channel looked like before any work was done there, the original slope, the cross-section. They took those with them. They did respond with a letter saying that they didn't want to do anything else, but just leave it alone, and I didn't find that to be an acceptable answer. And so I believe they've hired an engineer to do some plans for them, and they're here today to discuss those plans. And if you look, they submitted a application today, so we do have an application. Doesn't have a number yet, but we can talk it as new business, or we can talk about it as discussion, and that's however you want to proceed with this. We can accept their application.
You can accept their application tonight as part of the approval
Yeah.
date, yes.
Okay.
And maybe we can discuss it briefly under new business, and then you can come back on the next meeting.
Come back next
We
meeting
can
and talk about it,
Make a
okay.
determination, yeah.
Okay,
Because
so-
none of us have looked at it yet. We don't have a copy or.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope. So these gentlemen want to come up and talk, and we're here.
Sure. I'm Tim Wenzel, I'm principal with Connecticut Property Engineering. We were before your commission about a year ago for another application for this association where they had a drainage issue.
Before you go on, would you just make sure that the button is on, because I'm not
Oh,
sure that I hear it.
it's on.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Tim, if you like a handheld one, we have those too.
Well, I was gonna show them something, so that would be great. Thank you very much. I'm Tim Wenzel, I'm a principal with Connecticut Property Engineering. With here this evening is Thomas Ward, he's the president of the association, and Jerry Whelan, the property manager. Just so you know, we were before your commission about a year ago, and we received approval to put in a drainage system there in another part of the complex. Basically, what we're here tonight, hopefully to talk to you about a little bit, is they have had an ongoing problem here for years, in that this site is extremely flat. The units have relatively little difference in elevation between the basin. To be honest, they've gotten some very poor guidance over the years, in the sense that they've had a couple engineering firms in the past that told them there wasn't any outlet for this basin, when it turns out there is an outlet for the basin. The basin has become extremely overgrown over the years, and they recognized they made a mistake. They had a contractor who was a little bit overzealous, that they thought they were just cleaning up the stream to remove some brush and to, remove obstructions. And a little bit more than that happened. However, in many ways, and I can show you some pictures, it really has somewhat grown back and stabilized, and I'll pass these around to you. Certainly, they recognize some more work needs to be done to restore the two areas, and let me try to tell you what these two areas are. Want me to hold that, Tim? Sure, that would be great if you could. Basically, they have a street that goes through their complex. This is Steel Road. This is all a wooded area, and there's only a small area here that's between the two buildings that's somewhat open, and there's a lawn on both sides, and that had grown up. There was some trees in the stream and so on, such that they were getting some flooding in adjacent buildings. Their intent really was simply to restore it to its original condition, so the water could flow better from the woods line to there. And what they would like to do is simply fix that area to basically smooth the grades out, so that there's not some dips and valleys for vector control, and probably clean up the edge of the stream to what it looked like before, simply so they can probably mow closer to it and hopefully prevent it from regrowing in the future. And that's about a 200-foot length, where they really, in this area, didn't remove much material, but it kind of looks worse than it does, because you know, the bottom of it's not even now, so there's a little bit of small, like 4-foot by 4-foot ponds that shouldn't be there and so on. So what they'd really like to do to simply resolve that is to smooth out the grading so that they can create basically from the bottom of the structure that goes under their street to the woods, a nice clean slope with a reasonable embankment such that they can mow reasonably close to it. And that's really what it was before. On the other side of this cross street is this extremely large basin. It's about a 2-acre basin. And they did some cleanup activity right here as well, right where it comes out of that same culvert. And they're really proposing to do the same thing here, to simply try to smooth the banks again so it's closer to what it was before. And in this area, keep in mind, this whole area is extremely flat and very overgrown. So what they would like to do as a preliminary application, I guess, is simply mow and brush hog this area so we can figure out what's there. It's become so overgrown, to be honest with you. There's on town plan some underground drainage here that, to be honest with you, we don't know is even there. So basically what we would like to do is simply restore those 2 areas that was talked about and simply mow this area so that we can get a handle on what should be done, and then we'd like to come back to this commission and say, here's what we think ultimately should be done long term. This outlet structure that seems like was unknown for many years has deteriorated. It needs some repairs, but at this point, to know what should be done, as I said a minute ago, if we can clean up the area, not move any dirt, dig any holes or anything else, just mow the area. The area that we were before this commission a year ago was the homes that are right over here that were regularly flooding. And basically, this commission allowed us to put a trench from behind the buildings into this small stream bed that backs up next to the basin. And that seems to be working fairly well. Keep in mind, the water stream that comes from here comes across from Steel Road from other properties. And if you look at these plants, there's almost no pitch. I mean, this area is flat as can be. In fact, the ultimate outlet that goes across Mullen Road down by the composting facility is only, even in that huge distance, a few feet lower than this area. So obviously, it needs some tender loving care, if you will, because these units that are adjacent have had years and years of flooding, simply because there's just no grade, no pitch. And so that's what I think makes the sense to happen at this point, is for us not really to present a formal application, but to simply clean up the area, figure out what's there, then we can come back in concert with your agent and simply say, here's what makes sense to get done. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask you to flip the page again?
Sure.
And just tell me, I can't see if at the bottom, is that the top of that map, the
Correct.
southern
That's the top
end?
of the last one. The street we just looked at is right here. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so basically.
So that is south at the top of the map? Because I'm trying to,
Yep.
okay.
And basically, this basin, it's about a 2-acre basin. It's quite large. There's a few pipes that come into it from this cul-de-sac that's kind of in the front of the complex, but most of the water here originates off-site and then leaves off-site. And the problem is, realistically, that because there's so much growth going on in here, if you notice, there originally was a little bit of grading for a stream bed. So this basin was, I believe, originally intended to basically have a small stream that went through it, and then the rest of it was just storage capacity. I don't think it's probably functioning the way it was originally intended, in that this small stream bed, I suspect, really doesn't work anymore. So basically what happens is this entire area, basically the water comes up to it, reaches the appropriate height, leaves through this structure that we know needs work, and then goes down this small stream. So that's really, in essence, what we're doing there. This is the original landscaping plan, and you can note that this really, I think, was intended to be just a grassed area, but now it's a brush area. So if everybody's amenable, what we're really saying is we'd mow this area, with the exception, obviously, of this area in the center that wasn't intended to be, and then simply come back with a plan.
Jim?
Okay. By your own admission, you did some drainage work and you realized you needed a permit to do that, but you guys didn't feel that you needed a permit to do this kind of work. So, that's how we got to this point where there was work being done out there without a permit, without a plan, which is just as concerning to me as not having a permit. I hear what you're saying. There is the basin in the back. I think came to everyone's surprise. I believe we were out there. Mr. Ward was with us at the engineering department. We pulled out the original plans, and sure enough, there's a large basin down there, which is completely overgrown. It probably has never seen a bit of maintenance in many, many years. From my cursory review of that plan, the bottom of that basin has stone trenches throughout the bottom, kind of like in a herringbone design, which I believe probably leads to one pipe and then goes out through an embankment, kind of a low flow drainage system. And then any water that builds up fast in there, if it got too deep, it would go over a concrete weir. There's actually a small dam in the back, which you said is somewhat disrepair. Okay, so there's a whole lot of drainage structures right there, your drainage components that we don't really know what's going on. And so I would hesitate to say go in there and mow everything up to see what you're doing. I think you need to go in there a little more cautiously to get a better idea of what is there and what plan you'd like to put together to present to this agency to do that work there. As far as the channel work that's already been done, again, you hit it right on the head. It's extremely flat. The water comes from Still Road. It always has, and it always will. And when this development was put together, those considerations were considered. Okay, the size of the channel, the slope of the channel, the size of the 2.5 acre basin, all tells you there's a lot of water that comes through there. So by digging the channel, by going in there and doing the work that they had an idea to make it better, but I believe that by just digging without a plan and without any kind of grade stakes, without any kind of direction, they've created holes, highs and lows, and any material that was there, that was transported there from off-site, is now put on the sides of this channel. So whatever capacity this channel may have had originally, we don't know if it even has that anymore. And so that is why I'm asking yet again for a set of plans that show cross-section, slope, and final seating of what you're going to do to that channel. At this point, I don't want to see it just left the way it is. I think that it needs to be brought back to its original condition, just like the basin down below. That's a big task. I'll be realistic. That's a huge undertaking, and that basin has not seen any kinds of attention in many, many years. So if I would suggest a plan of action, it would be to come back to this agency with a detailed plan on what you're going to do with the channel work and what you'd like to do going forward with the detention basin. And then we could review that and have some time to look at it and make our recommendations.
What year were these built?
87.
Okay. Any questions from the agency members?
I agree.
Turn your mic on.
I think you should have a plan of action of how you're going to, otherwise we're going to have guys going in there digging up and making highs and lows worse.
Well, I think we have tried to express that there is a plan of action, and that we know what the original grades were because we have the original plans. And in that 200-foot area and approximately 30-foot area, what we're saying is we're going to put it back to what it was. So, I mean, I don't know if we can make a plan that's any more specific than that. I mean, we're talking about an area where there's a less than a foot difference in grade from that culvert to the woods. So basically, I have a photograph here of what it looked like before any work was done. And you can see that you know, what it looks like now, what it looks like then is really not much difference, with the exception of
Is
there's a
this
little
on
bit.
the east side or the west side of the,
This is on the Steel Road side, correct. As it comes out of the woods from Steel Road, it then progresses downstream. That photograph is taken standing on their road, looking upwards as if you were looking towards Steel Road. And that's what that stream looked like before. So you can see that the stream now, other than being maybe more uneven and not being as mowed, is really pretty darn similar. So in this area, I don't think they really removed much material. You can, you know, when you stare at the first picture in the set, that's really looking the opposite direction. So basically, in the third picture in the set I gave you is, of course, looking from the woods, from the exact same spot. So the third picture in your set has the same perspective, if you will, as that before picture. I apologize for not having more pictures before, but, you know, we got lucky to find one, you know. So that, I guess my point is, I mean, the plan we would present wouldn't be any more detailed necessarily than saying we're gonna restore it to the original grade.
From what I understand, I think Jim's looking for detailed plans, like true plans. So that's not something that we have, correct?
What grade would it be? Do you know the grade on that slope? What would the slope be on that channel?
The slope on the edge or upstream?
No, the bottom channel. The bottom of the channel, what slope is it going to be?
From there to the woods, and over that 200 feet, I think it's about 6 inches. So you're talking about,
So, and that would be,
0.25%
and that'd
is-
be very difficult to achieve, and which necessitates it even more of you going out and having some kind of a plan saying you're going to stake it, and they're going to grade it to a certain stake, and you're going to provide us with an as-built that says that you did what you said.
Right.
Because from our perspective, how are we going to know when we got to that final result? And that, to me, that's with a plan and then an as-built that says this is what was done.
did they have they had a permit back, when was it, you said 87?
No, they asked when they were built.
That's when they were built. When they did this, did they have a permit?
In '87, yes.
And did they also have a maintenance?
There must have been some kind of maintenance schedule with
Yeah,
it.
I'm
If
not
there
sure how
is, we don't
detailed-
know of it. That's
yeah,
one of the
it's probably
problems.
wasn't very detailed in
Right.
'87.
So I think you just saw what happened with Heritage
other
Farms.
project.
I mean, you sat through that. They were very detailed. We were detailed. We have to be. And they've done what they've needed to do. I don't know that we can just say, go ahead and mow. I mean, you have a 2.5 acre basin here that we're talking about. I mean, by all admittance, has not been maintained for God knows how long. So, my personal opinion is that I agree with you, Jim. I think, you know, work has been done. It's not as simple as just going out to mow and coming back with some kind of haphazard plan. We need a plan.
Well, I'm the property manager, by the way, and I've dealt with Tim a lot and the board of directors. We've had past board of directors deal with this problem. And the way the association's kind of viewing this is, we already have plans on file with the town from the original developer, and our engineer is stating that we're going to follow those plans. Why do we have to pay him to mimic those again?
But have you followed them? It sounds like you haven't.
He's saying that we will. We'll match the grades.
But have you?
Well, that's what we're trying to get permission to do.
But from
We
what-
haven't touched it since Jim told us to stop, and we want to, and the area that we disturbed is 20, 30 feet. And it's not a large area, and we just want to return those areas, and if there is some ponding and some highs and lows in the channel that we disturbed, we want to correct those back to the original slopes and grades.
Right.
We,
So we're all on the same page.
yeah.
I get that,
But
right.
the plans you guys have on towns, you already have the plans. We want to go.
From 1987?
Yes, you have them on
But
the
I
site.
mean, obviously, the conditions have changed since 1987, looking at these pictures up here.
that
We're
I
not
can't-
talking the same,
I can't tell you that, I haven't been there for maybe
right,
6
but
years.
just, I mean, these pictures alone show me that
I think
it's
what's
not exactly the
what's
same
important to
conditions.
convey to everyone here is, was it a parabolic channel? Was it a trapezoidal-shaped channel? What was it, this channel cross-section?
If you look at the plans that you were so nice to provide to us, you know, the grade lines are so far apart because it's so flat there's no way to know,
Okay.
you know, other than what's there. I mean, you can look at those plans and you say, you know, whatever we say it was, we're gonna make it up, to be honest with you, because, you know, there's 2-foot grade lines in an area that's flat as a pancake. So how do we know? You know what I mean? So that we can certainly create a plan that says what the grade should be, but, you know, what was there originally, we suspect what simply happened is slowly over time, the trees grew in the channel and, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, condominium associations, sometimes leaves get dumped up near the edge, or all of those kind of issues. And if you notice, it was a couple trees that were kind of smack dab in the channel, so that the water had to go around it, that kind of stuff. If you like to go out there, you will be struck by the fact that the buildings are so low with respect to this area. You know, they have struggled for years with adding sump pumps to different areas and trying to resolve these issues, because that basin is just a few feet above basements that are near there. You know, it's a real problem, to be honest with you.
It sounds like it's very critical
Right.
that the elevations be correct there.
I wanted to
Agreed,
ask.
and that's why I'm simply suggesting if you look at what was planted there originally, it was planted in grass. So what we're saying is if we mow the area, all of a sudden we can get it back to the grass and certainly have a better idea of what's there. It's so overgrown now that, you know, it would be sure nice to have to be able to look out there, if you will, and say, you know, because that part of the basin hasn't changed other than vegetation. This is not like in the case you were talking about earlier where there's sediment. I don't think there's off-site settlement or anything else that's moved into this area. We saw no evidence of that. The only sediment or the only debris or whatever you want to call it is really just for growth.
Okay. I had a couple of questions in regards to the plans. I also think you need a set of plans. Obviously, something has changed since 1987 that caused you to go out there to begin with, where you were asked to stop working on it. I met a gentleman, I don't know his name, I don't remember his name, I met him at the shelter last year when we had the storm, that mentioned concerns to me then. Now I understand maybe why he was bringing up concerns of problems there about water issues. So obviously something was going on, and I can't see that from 1987 till now that just vegetation can cause the problems. There's new obstructions in the way with vegetation that would happen. So it's not just sediment. I mean, we would need to see what the differences are, and if need be, if there's a problem with the water flow, maybe there needs to be a plan of adding a gradation to it into the plan. I don't know, because we don't know what the plans are. We don't know exactly what you need. You know, you need to have a real strategic plan and not just mowing it and then seeing, because
No, I'm not saying we're just going to mow it and see it. I'm saying by mowing it, we can get a lot better handle on, well, let me put it differently. When you get all done, you're going to mow it anyways, I suspect, to do any kind of work there. So why not go ahead and do that now so we can figure out what's there, what's not functioning far better? Because the problem is, you'd mentioned grades. We'd love to be able to find some grades. But as I said before, if you look at the grades all the way over on Mullen Roads where it leaves, which is probably a quarter of a mile to half a mile away, there's about 4 feet difference. And that's other people's properties. And so that even this outlet structure that's in the back, the stream behind it is less than a foot different from this whole area. I mean, this is as flat as you can be. I think this is why the other engineers assumed that there was no outlet structure here, because they drove around and said, wait a minute, there's no place for the water to go anyways. I mean, this is, in the middle of the summer, if you get out Mullen Road and look at that stream where it goes through, it's green on the top because it just doesn't flow, because there's just no grades to make things flow. And that's, you know, we're certainly willing to do what you think. I'm just saying, as far as you being able to see what's there and everybody else, and any final plan is likely going to really need to mow that area to figure out. For instance, we see on the plan that there's some underground drainage, or at least trap rock lines going through it. But I don't think the plans show any kind of pipe going through the middle. They seem to simply run to this little small stream that was intended to run through it.
So
So-
if you have a, I mean, a surveyor couldn't go out without it being mowed? Because what happens on new subdivisions? They're not mowed if they go out and
They kind of
stake the
bushwhack their way through
lots
enough
and-
to see, sure.
Right,
sure.
so it is possible?
Oh, of
is
course,
my
yeah,
question.
sure.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Luzak, what would be the implication of mowing to find out what they would need to do?
I didn't walk that particular basin in its entirety, but I don't recall it being mowable. I don't think you're going to take your lawnmower out there and do any kind of maintenance to it. Isn't it trees? Isn't there large
Brush,
trees?
no, with a brush.
There's no trees?
No, a brush
No.
hog could easily mow it.
This brush hog could easily take care
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
There's trees along the berm that's on the side that are fairly mature trees.
If I recall, that brush, is it 15 feet high?
It's probably, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it 20 feet high?
It's big brush,
It's
yes.
big brush.
Yeah, big brush,
Okay.
right.
That would.
And
So-
how are we going to, you're
Yeah,
just
so
going to leave
you're-
it, you're going to leave it there? Just,
You're right. You're going to mulch it all up and have a lot of material in this basin.
I suspect the larger stuff, they'd need to chip or something, sure.
so now we're talking
You're
more
talking about-
activity.
talking
We
about-
did, that's where the details come in. Like, we really need to
Talking
get.
about brush that's yay big. But ultimately, this needs to be a maintained basin.
I get that, but I mean, and eventually, we would have a plan to discuss how it's going to be maintained and all that. So I think we're just kind of,
I think, my opinion is, this agency would be happy to entertain the ongoing work to do the maintenance in the basin, but at first we need to address what's going to happen with the channel. Let's get the channel back to shape and seed it, and hopefully we're not too late to seed it now. But let's get that done first, and then under the same permit,
Right.
we could talk about going forward. So
Sure.
now that we've accepted your application, I'd like to see some basic plans. We're not talking about, 10-page plans, but a plan saying, and I'll just throw it out for suggestion, is you shoot the existing inverts of the pipe underneath the road and say, we're going to go from this elevation uphill at this percentage, and we're going to go downhill from this point at this percentage, and a typical cross-section, so that if you say it's going to have a 3-foot bottom and 2-to-1 side slopes, when I or any of the agency members come out to look at it, they can look at your plan and say, it looks like they made what they said they're going to do. And that's what we need to do. We need to have the accountability and the ability to verify what is proposed.
We can certainly do that. Whether or not that it's going to enable the association to finish this fall or not, is what we're hoping to, I guess.
right.
Get
Some of
started
this
sooner.
vegetation looks like it was planted there anyway, in the pictures here,
That's
Which
all
is-
volunteer.
which
That's
is
all-
good for wetlands, I mean,
That's all natural growth. Even the area we
This?
dug
Well, it looks-
into.
this-
the-
this picture here looks a heck of a lot better than that first picture.
Well, even the areas that we disturbed, within 2-3 weeks, the stuff was a foot high. It grows really fast.
See, they didn't go through topsoil or anything else. I mean, don't assume that they dug out 3 feet of material there. I think what they did is, they pulled tree roots and moved stuff around and didn't do it in the neatest manner, I guess would be as good a way as any to describe it.
It looks like he did more than that with this picture.
Well, I don't think you really did. If you look at the elevation of the water with respect to the stream, if you go out there, there's maybe pockets that are 6 inches deep or something like that. But in general, the problem is the guy that did the work, I mean, it's like a roller coaster at the bottom of the stream, and ultimately that's the problem. It should have been nice and smooth and neat, and the edges should have been landscaped better. And what I'd like to see is them be able to mow right up closer to it so they can keep it cleaner. So they could weed whack up to the stream kind of thing, because it's in the middle of a lawn. You know what I mean? There's people's lawns on both sides that go down to it.
Which would ultimately make it easier to maintain.
Absolutely.
In
This
the end,
looks like
too,
a
so.
tree, I
Absolutely,
don't know.
Right.
Taken down, whatever.
In
Right.
the observations as soon as I got on site, the observation that I had was that the material that he was taking from one part of the channel was merely getting put on another part of the channel. The material wasn't being hauled out, it wasn't being taken out of the floodplain, it was just being moved from the bottom to the side. And as we all know, the that channel, being as flat as it is, has to have a certain capacity. And that's what we want to ensure, that whatever capacity that needs to be, you have out there when we're done.
Okay.
And maybe you have it now, if you want to do an as-built today and say, here's the channel as it is, as he finished it, and it meets the criteria of the design, and then we'll look at that, but we need.
I don't think we're saying that.
Okay, I mean, it's an option. I mean,
Right.
if you
No.
think that's what's out there, then we can do that. If it was just minor little movements, I mean, do you think that he changed the grade and the shape of the channel significantly?
I don't think he did a lot. He kind of scooped out the stuff in the middle and then kind of packed it on the edge.
Correct.
We're not here to disagree what happened.
Okay.
I mean, it's more, we're hoping to
Right.
go forward in an expeditious manner.
And we're here to put it back together in the
Right,
way it was
What's
as
the best
quickly
way
as
to
we
get
can.
it done with,
That's right.
Right, and
the
we want to work
association.
with you. I mean,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's, I was hoping that you would have been here the last meeting, so I thought.
We had some
Is that-
communication issues
Yeah.
with the meeting getting canceled.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not that we want to put you off, I know you want to get started on this, but I think, in my personal opinion, that we need some more details, and I'm not very comfortable with allowing any more activity than what's been done already, until we have some plans in place. That's my personal opinion. Are there any other questions?
No, I agree.
Roby, nothing?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So tonight, I mean, you've submitted an application to Jim, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to start that as
Yes.
stamp that tonight.
Did-
We will have a copy in our packets for the next meeting, and
Correct.
hopefully some plans, and
Got it.
we can move forward and hope to see you at the next meeting
Yeah.
and discuss it further.
When is your next meeting?
November 7th.
I would think you would appreciate condo-style government at this point. They move relatively slow. They have to they at the most have meetings once a month. Our next meeting is November 22nd. We can't make any voting or decisions before that time. So we'll definitely not make November 7th meeting with any plans in place because
Well,
the board.
all it would be is we would have the application in front of us and the plans, and we would just do the back and forth, with questions again. So there would be most likely just a question and answer period. But
Okay.
if you want to push it up and discuss with your board, that's fine.
Well, I just say that simply because the engineer has to answer to the board.
That's
So
fine.
they need to review what he's doing to make
Okay.
sure it's okay with the board. And then, ultimately he comes, or we come to you and discuss it with you.
That's whenever you want. I mean,
Okay.
you can deal with Jim if you want to be on next agenda, that's fine, as long as we have the material. If not, we'll put you on the following.
Okay, just so you don't think we're trying to.
Yeah, no, we're just trying to
Okay.
work with
Call
you.
me.
I just wanted to expedite it if we could, so
Okay.
whatever
Appreciate it.
works for you.
And the reason that we weren't at the first meeting was we submitted a letter, and I thought I was gonna get a response back.
Okay.
And I didn't, and Jim told me when he called, and I called him that, well, I said verbally, you gotta go, and then I said, well, that must have, I didn't understand that, so.
Understandable.
That was my fault, not anybody else.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Just a clarification, the initial plan can be the remediation part of it, and then obviously we can follow up later with ultimately the long-term plan. Okay.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item,
Yep.
actually, Jim, before we move forward, I had a couple of, under your wetlands agent report, a couple of things that I don't think you addressed.
Okay.
12 Leary, we had a discussion about that.
Right there.
Those.
Okay. Which one?
This is the only historic record I think we have.
Oh, the first one.
This one?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't recall. 12 Leary.
12 Leary was the dock.
Oh, correct. Oh, thank you. I spoke with the landowner just prior to the, I believe they were having a Scantic River cleanup activity on a Saturday, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. And I had told him that, that he needed to get the dock out of there, and he agreed. He knew that it didn't belong there, but, of course, he did enjoy its use. And he had told me that he would have it out by the following Tuesday. And I believe I talked to a contractor who said he was going out there to do it that week.
Okay.
I have not been out there to take a picture of it, but I will get out there, and I have pictures of it before, and I'll show you the ones that are after. So
Okay.
he was, he was accepting of the idea that he had to take it out. So.
Not loving it, but.
Not loving it, but,
Yeah, I get that.
I think taking it out would be it's going to be kind of a challenge. So maybe they had some difficulty. I don't think it's just going to pop right out because it was built pretty well.
And then I'm just going through the last meeting minutes. 30 Bacon Road, there was some clearing without approvals.
Yep, 30 Bacon Road they've ceased their operations there. They have come in to talk to planning and zoning. They haven't submitted any formal applications. When they do, there'll be a wetlands application, a zoning application.
Okay, so they're in the process.
They've
Okay.
not submitted any plans, but they haven't done any more work.
Okay, that's all I had. Okay, old business, we have nothing. New business, nothing. New applications to be received, nothing. Other business. Official map update discussion.
Believe it or not.
He made progress. He did.
Progress, and I only have one copy. It's not even the full copy, but by next meeting, we'll have copies on your folders of a map similar to this, in this size, and there's lots of colors on here, and we'll have a key to talk about what the colors are. For discussion purposes today, what you see in green on here would be something that exists today as a wetland, on today's wetlands map, that would not in the revised map. So there is quite a bit of green. And what you'll see is most of those green areas are in established subdivisions from the 50s and 60s. And that's really, that's hard to regulate those areas because they're no longer anything like they were when the soil survey came back, or came through in 61 or whatever it was, yeah. Okay, so there's some progress, just
Okay.
not quite
Yeah.
enough yet.
Jim, I had a question before we move on. Heritage Farms, in order to further that discussion at our next meeting and maybe for the next 9 months, should that be an agenda item? Should we put that on the agenda somewhere to discuss it, so it doesn't fall off the map and we all forget about it like we always do?
It's not an application. Is
Would
it
it be under old business to discuss?
old business?
My question is, if it is put on the agenda, do we need a motion to put it on the agenda? No, no, just, okay.
I don't think we need it.
No, Heritage Farms, not Carriage House. Heritage Farms.
In a year and a half, yeah.
Right, I'm just saying, so we don't forget about it.
I almost, if we put it under old business, because there's an existing permit.
Maybe it's just so we remember to every
Yeah.
once in a while take a
So
look
we'll-
at it and,
And that way it'll be ongoing
Get
old
updates
business,
and
because
discuss,
until it
okay.
expires,
all right. So let's put it under old business.
Okay.
For the next one.
But we can't give them a new permit until the old one runs out, right?
well, we could modify a permit at any time, so it might be if we come to some, idea of how we're going to go forward with this, if we do this, and I hope we do.
I think the first step would be checking the legality of it.
Yeah.
So
Right, maybe some
that would be our
research to
first
look
step
at.
through
How
you.
can we that's a tough thing to do.
Well, they need to check state statute,
Statutes.
if that's even possible to have an open-ended permit. I have no idea. I've never
Yeah.
seen it, so.
I don't think that's going to be the answer, in my opinion. It won't be an open-ended. It'll have a time frame that's renewable, but I think it's going to be renewable and reportable, if that makes any sense. We're going to have a reportable permit that has some reporting to it, something that comes back every year to keep it going. It has to have certain criteria met before it gets renewed for the next 5 years.
So, all right, so let's put it on.
Biggest criteria is,
Well, I think that what
Money.
they've, and of course I can't speak for them, but what I think I understand is that it is tight. Money is always tight in associations. And they need to budget for new roofs. When the roof is gone in 25 years, they have to have money set aside to put a new roof in. They're being proactive and saying, you know what, we need to put money aside to clean out that basin every couple of years. It's a real item. It is it's a part of the infrastructure. It's just as
Capital
important.
expense, yeah.
Yeah, it's just as important as the rest of the infrastructure. And a lot of times it's forgotten and overlooked, but they saw the importance of it. They had some water backup, and they cleaned it out, and they realized it's something that they have to continue to do. So,
When they buy those places, they buy them with that in the
Yeah.
deeds and documents, right?
What do you mean?
Maintenance fees for
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
pension ponds and
absolutely.
whatever,
And
you know?
someone who
But
wants
some
to
of
be
them just
proactive
forget 'em.
and yeah, right, and say, look, these are all the things we need to take care of, and our current fee schedule doesn't work. We need to bump it up by a little bit over a long time. That's better than saying, oh, by the way, we need $50,000 to go clean out the basin.
Right.
Because no one likes to
Special
hear
assessment.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't like it when it's like, we're gonna have a problem. Why, we're gonna have a problem?
Well,
You know, he's gonna have the problem.
I wish that he was still here. We're discussing it. He
Yeah.
mentioned in his opening statement that he'd be willing to pay fees. So couldn't part of the course of action be that once the application was due to be renewed, or, he said June 14th, 2014, at that point, then a new application could be submitted for the next step, and that could be part of their ongoing maintenance, that every time the application was coming up for expiration, it would be renewed, a new application would be filed, and that could
And
be part of
may-
their ongoing
Right.
maintenance plan and their fee
And that
plan.
may be what we determine. I say let's vet it out, because it would open a can of worms to
Yeah.
any person that is coming in front of us. We would have to
Well,
consider
is-
that as well, so.
They didn't adhere to the things before, in the application. What makes us think that
it's-
they're gonna now?
Right, it may be something that we can only implement going forward on new applications.
I don't feel
new
comfortable giving
subdivisions, or-
15 years, for the
Right,
next
so let's-
commission that comes along and say, geez, what did those guys do? What are
Right,
they? You know?
And by changing the fee structure, it's not an easy process. I mean, we'd have to, so,
No.
we, let's put it on under old business, and then we can talk about it further.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussions? No?
Just a reminder that the next meeting is November 7th. That's a Wednesday, the day after Election Day, 7 o'clock here at Town Council Chambers.
Perfect, okay. Next item is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion made by Jill. Seconded by Roby. Okay, all in favor? We're adjourned.
Wednesday. It's now circle.